Realize that the older we get to see what the kids of today enjoy compared to what we grew up enjoying. I was that kid that didn't really go outside. He just read books, gamed, and watched cartoons. I thought it was a common thing until hearing from someone that they just read books and didn't really game much or consume any type of television growing up, which didn't really shock me because there were portions of my life I would just read. Books were a way to escape the troubles of life and jump into a world unlike my own. The thrill of finding a completely different genre or discovering a new favorite author was a favorite pastime for me that I haven't really done in a long time. The reason for that is that I enjoy reading manga over books because I can find series in surplus. Once I catch up with one, I can find a new one that I may like rather easily. What I mean by that is that I read manga on a website, and if I wanted a new book, I would have to go to a store or read a short summary and hope it was good. The bad thing is that will add a new series before I decided to end the current series. That is my current problem at this point. But worse problems to be had. When it came to games, I would play whatever console was free and play whatever game I didn't beat. There was this cat and mouse game I played growing up that I haven't remotely found, even though I've searched many times. In my household, I had older consoles because of older brothers, and the current consoles because, well, me. But there was always something to play since my brothers liked to play multiplayer games. I think my fondest memories came from playing GoldenEye with my brothers. At this point in my life, I didn't have an identity on what I liked when it came to music slash games. I kind of listened slash watched whatever my brothers had playing at any given time. Since I was a homebody, I kind of absorbed their interests. The funny thing is, when it came to Saturday morning cartoons, I had my own interests. I would watch Kids WB, and any other time I would watch Discovery Kids and PBS Kids. Probably weird to hear that a kid was watching animal shows and then watch the cartoon shows they offered. One weird show I remember vividly was an educational show called Crashbox, which I would recommend, but would say it could get pretty gross. The two shows I watched that stuck with me were Kenny the Shark and Growing Up Creepy, and the funny thing is that I have a tattoo of the MC from Growing Up Creepy. I don't know why a show about a kid having a friend as a shark would interest me, or why a kid growing up with insect parents wouldn't gross me out, but didn't. If either of these shows came on in front of me today, I would be able to watch it without taking a break. I kind of wanted to revisit all the shows I liked in the past, but that didn't go well when I rewatched Digimon. I loved Digimon growing up. I thought it was amazing, but I rewatched it a few years ago, but didn't particularly like what I watched. Nostalgia didn't hit as hard as I thought it would, and I didn't really care for the show. I think it was one of those things where you enjoyed something because of the action, and then when you were old enough to pay attention to the story, you realize that it isn't that good. It was kind of depressing because it was one of the few things I went back to, didn't like. I rewatched Kids Next Door, Dexter's Laboratory, and Courage the Cowardly Dog Show, and liked rewatching all of it. I also have a tattoo of Courage, by the way, too. Like, I'm tatted up, motherfucker. I think that might also be because I watched all those shows more in my early teens versus Digimon when I watched as a kid to kind of preteen. I can still enjoy the Digimon games, even though the latest release wasn't my cup of tea. I hated that I couldn't refund the game because I bought it on Switch and Nintendo as well. Nintendo. Okay, so I'm not adding this to the script. I'm just going to say it verbatim just in case Nintendo goes for my ass. But if you own Nintendo, in the Nintendo store, there's no ways you actually refund something, or at least it wasn't when I was doing it. But there's no way to refund a game. All sales are final. Truthfully speaking, this is kind of the only practice that is done in any type of online store. Steam allows you to refund a game if you played it under a certain amount of time. PlayStation will let you refund a game if you haven't. I think it's the same thing, same premise. So long as you played it on a certain amount of time. So every store kind of offers a refund system, but not Nintendo for some odd reason. This brings us to the topic of the video today, which is Digimon versus Pokemon. Which is better, or is it too different to compare? At the end of the day, both games follow the name of Pokémon, or Pocket Monsters. Pokemon follows more of the theme that you capture monsters in the wild and then put it in the ball that can fit into your pocket. Digimon are digital monsters that come from the digital world and can be captured into a Digivice that can also be put into your pocket. You kind of get how the name Pocket Monsters fit in. Innovation wise, I would have to give it to Digimon because their games have changed over the years while Pokemon's games have only changed in the past few years when it comes to graphics and gameplay. Funnily enough, both games fail at innovation when it comes to the gaming world because I wouldn't ever put any Pokemon or Digimon games in my top 100 games played. Majority of Digimon games have the same Digimons, but the twist is that the ones you can pick from the start have changed. Kind of like Pokemon, where you pick a new starter from a new set of Pokemon when you start the game. I feel like I need to emphasize on this again, not being added to a script. So in Pokemon, you have starters from every region. Every new game kind of offers a different set of starters from a new area. So you don't really start in the same area from the last Pokemon game, unless it's like a continuation. But usually, new Pokemon games give you a new starter because you're in a new region and you have different Pokemon to catch, which is why you get different Pokemon from each region. The funny thing is that Pokemon has a lot of different types of genres when it comes to games, that it's hard not to call them innovative because they use their materials in all different types of games. They have puzzle games, dungeon crawler games, mobile games like Pokemon Go, the Pokemon catching game series we all know and like, and many more that I would never play. Digimon's released a ton of games over the years, and the last game I played was Digimon Cyber Sleuth series, which I did like for what it was. I believe I said this last video, but I did buy the latest Digimon game on my Switch, which is Digimon Survive, which was a visual novel, which I didn't care to play because I didn't go to Digimon for visual novels. I said before that Pokemon lost to Digimon innovation when it came to the main game. That is because in this day and age, graphics is king. Funny enough, I don't really care about graphics as long as it plays well. I could look like Prototype 1, yeah. I mean, if I did, I would be sexy as fuck. It could look like Prototype 1 graphics, but I wouldn't care as long as it was fun to play, which would make me happy. All I want in a game is for the gameplay to be fun and the story to be good. The problem with early Pokemon is that it still followed the 2-bit style in an age where we had a graphics revolution. People still ran to line up to Pokemon midnight releases, even though there were games that performed better. At the end of the day, Pokemon is Pokemon, and it's hard to dethrone the king when no one else does it better. Does what better exactly? Well, that is making new and different catchable monsters that are fun to evolve. The new games were put into a new region and are shown new Pokemon based on said region. Thankfully, Pokemon has started to evolve, and we can see a 3D character that we can customize, which is still behind many AAA games, but it is a happy step forward. With that step forward, we can be hopeful that we may see a game like Pokemon looking like Horizon Zero Dawn in the future. I can't sadly say near future, because I feel like we won't really see something like that for another 10 to 20 years, and by that time we would be playing a better version from Pokemon clones. Almost every popular game has a game that has modeled after it, to the point that you would think that there's probably some copyright infringement. The reason behind this could be a quick cash grab, a fan that wanted different things added that was never added, or someone that wanted to make a pocket monster game in their own way. Theoretically speaking, they would probably just add it as a mod, truthfully speaking. But it's Pokemon, so you can't really do that. The most popular clone of today would be Palworld, which took the world by storm because unlike Pokemon games, you could fight enemies with guns or any ranged weapon you could build. Most controversial part of the game was that you could cook the collected monsters, and not the fact that you could also enslave humans. Which is funny how we forget that part. Then again, you're already becoming a bandit because you're fighting and capturing monsters for your base to exploit them for labor. So why not use humans as well? The funny thing is that I totally discredited a whole series from this genre because of how fun and different it is from Pokemon and Digimon. That game series being Shin Megami Tensei series, or what you probably know them from their most popular series, the creators of Persona series. The reason I didn't think of it initially was because most Pocket Monster games include monsters that evolve into a stronger version once certain requirements are met. In the SMT game, you control different personas that you can level up, and the only way to get a more powerful form is to fuse two or more different personas into a new one. Usually requirements for that is to have the personas and level needed to even use the persona. Thinking about it, it reminds me of Digimon when you fuse two different Digimon to make an ultimate Digimon. Unlike Digimon and SMT, you have to fuse in order to save resources and get harder hitting skills that you wouldn't get from the base or low level persona. While looking at Pokemon clones, I saw this Metroidvania/Pocket Monster game called Monster Sanctuary. It looked interesting, and since it was on sale, I bought it. Probably wasn't the smartest idea on my part because I spent way too much money this week on bike parts. My bike got a flat. I just looked at my wishlist on Steam, and of the 29 games, 3 of them are Pocket Monster games, and of the 3, 2 were SMT games. I made a whole series on that list. I made a whole series. I wish I got that money. I did a whole video on that list, and even though I feel like they aren't the best company, I do enjoy playing their games, even though they have the same problem of the story repeating or the characters seemingly feeling the same. The best way to compare Pokemon to a Persona game would be that Persona tackles more mature situations, also deals with the ugly side of humanity as a whole, which explains the title. Pokemon is more lighthearted, but also shows that the world still has its share of trouble. There's also more added, but I'm not going to go into detail of story. Play the game, motherfucker. With all this knowledge being shared, I have a question to ask. Do you think Pocket Monster type games will continue to be produced in the future? I guess that question is easy to answer if you truly think about it. If you just ask the question when it comes to Pokemon clones, the clones will stop being a thing when Pokemon becomes accessible outside of Nintendo devices. The reason the clones became a thing was because people didn't want to have to put on their Switch to play Pokemon, and they rather just play on a PC or any other console. So people downloaded emulators, or like I said earlier, find clones of different versions of Pokemon monsters that offer a lot more compared to the original. Could be a better story or a different and new way to approach gameplay. When it comes to the Pokemon Monster genre, the goal is never to copy Pokemon or any other games I mentioned, but to make something new, fresh, and enjoyable. Or really just to copy Pokemon, truly. I don't really like some of these games, they way too close. When I look up the best Pokemon-like games, 2 games showed up that I played and enjoyed: Cassette Beast and Koromon. Both games I played on stream and thoroughly enjoyed. Of the two, I would say Cassette Beast resonated more with me because of the fact that you can fuse your beast because of the cassette aspect of the game. One thing about this video is that this started going down a weird memory lane of my childhood, how I grew up, and how media molded me in a time when media was growing. I say that because I grew up with dial-up and also remember when the first iPod was released, even though I didn't own one because I was content with my portable CD player, which then evolved into an MP3 player because I was tired of my CD skipping while I was out and about. It is funny that I talked about Pokemon staying still during the graphics revolution because I was able to see the changes for all the medias in real time. I owned a fucking old ass Game Boy. I owned a Game Boy. Game Boy fucking Color, motherfucker. Not the GBA. The Game Boy Color, motherfucker. Also a GBA. I'm old as fuck. I'm not old. I sadly say that, which makes me feel really old just mentioning that, but I am also the person that still buys albums and listens to albums on my phone. I thankfully have moved into digital copies because I would rather have multiple copies of an album than just one. Now you can download a physical copy of an album onto your computer once you have it, but I also feel heartbroken if something happened to a physical copy of an album I bought. And I also would have to have like a CD drive, and I don't have that on my PC, and I'm not doing that, so fuck off. The only physical form of media I still buy are books, and that's only if I'm in the store and it is something I couldn't just read online, or if I feel like supporting someone. Another question: do you think Pokemon and Nintendo at that will last forever? Nintendo has been stuck in their ways for a long time, has rubbed people the wrong way, and they haven't buzzed on certain things because they know that their hardcore fans will always buy their games. They are still a part of the big three when it comes to the consoles, even though truthfully Nintendo is the only one without an actual console. In my eyes, you have PlayStation, Xbox, and then last you have Nintendo, and out of all of them, Nintendo doesn't really try to share their exclusives. PlayStation just started releasing some of their games on Steam, even though they're still trying to manipulate numbers by making people sign up for their services when they play their game. For example, Helldivers 2. The sad thing is that it still takes a while to get ported onto PC, so you have to wait a year or so before you can even touch it on PC. The most demanded game from PlayStation, in my opinion, would have to be a remaster of Bloodborne. Hopefully that Bloodborne 2 would probably be more welcome than before a remaster. To sum everything up, the only way to stop clones would be to allow your games to be played on platforms. But at the end of the day, that wouldn't really stop clones. The reason for that is because there isn't a way to satisfy everyone. So people would always make the games they want to play. I enjoy playing Pokemon Digimon, but once I beat it, I'm usually done with it and don't touch it again. I don't know if that's just a me thing, but I don't really care to play the games once I beat it, because the only thing you would want to do is level up another team of monsters. The stories are pretty linear, so you wouldn't play again to try to get another ending or discover different monsters or people to play with or fight. I do remember in Cyber Sleuth there are Digimons you wouldn't be able to get unless you played the game before. I will also be going back to my original schedule because I want to make more gaming videos, but I need more time in order to do that. So back to releasing every 2 weeks once this video is released. I like doing the once a week because it would fill up my week, but leveling in Final Fantasy XIV, doing dailies in Honkai Star Rail, and deciding if I have time to play patch 7 and BG3 or new content Wrath of Righteous is getting to me. Then add a weekly schedule of editing and recording a video just to release every week, which would make anyone overwhelmed because then it starts to become a full-time job. Especially when you record right after talking for 7 hours, right after you eat. My voice has been trashed these recordings, so we'll go back to recording on Saturdays. This will be when I get back from my bike ride. I have no idea why I decided to bike every Saturday, but I do like being active on the weekend, instead of sitting inside all day. Anyway, my name is Oni Incubus, and that has been my time. I love you all, and hope you all have a lovely day and week. Later days. Also, like an editor's note, like, it's not even that, it's note, it's like right after recording. My voice is trash when I start recording. I don't know why it's a fucking thing, but as soon as I'm like, okay, cool, I'm ready to record, I'm like done, my voice becomes trash. Like, I literally was a minute into this fucking video to record it. Like even a minute, 30 seconds, and my voice was like, like what the fuck is wrong with you, dude? Let me record in peace. Hey, but I love you all. Peace. Ba 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 da, ba ba. Clean my nose and all the stuff. You see the woes. I didn't clean my ears today. Ba da ba ba. That's a lie, 'cause I did it. I cleaned my ears and I just sprayed my. Ida, cool. I sprayed my ears and washed it away. Because all the things I do for you. Do 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 do. Take a sip of that water, 'cause it's a water break. Get yourself a water break. Stop being a nerd. Stop being a nerd. Look at that boy. Look at that boy. Look at that boy. Nerd.